live from the Real Guppy Dockside Learning and Multimedia Center. It's the Real Angler Podcast with community Kevin Brannon, brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. And now, here's your host, community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Elidet Reyes.
Scotty quit. What? I thought you introduced Barry to the show. What happened? Oh yeah, the microphone thing. So we have new microphones, by the way.
Do the voice and I'll move my mouth.
Hi, I'm Scott. Now, anyway, this is Barry. No, the reason why we have the bear, right? I'm a California bear. California is the animal for California is the bear.
Oh, that's
and,
right.
My fishing show was from California. Represent California, and look at I'm built like a little bear, so you know. And so anyway, this is Barry. I got this guy in Sacramento, California, made out of redwood at a fishing expo. So we brought him in. He's been here about 6 years now.
At least.
Yeah, he's our mascot. But yeah,
I like
California
it.
bear. Yeah. Care Bear, right? He's from Care a lot. Anyway, talk about caring a lot. We got Elidet here, Reyes and Smiles. We go back a long time as far as like not hanging out, but we went to high school together. I've seen her post stuff on Facebook. She does a lot of community outreach and engagement stuff. Alumni with Huanimi High School, where we live at. Promoting shows. She has a magazine she's going to talk about today. And then if you remember, our first guest of the year was Carlos with Bikes for Cause, and they have a project that they're working on that's going to come out in the future. And he recommended us reaching out, and he didn't know that we knew each other. So I reached out on Facebook, and we chopped it up, or somebody tagged you, and we put together a date, and we got you in here. We wanted to talk to you about the shows you have coming up, about your magazines, your vision. You're a very positive person as far as being a creator and doing stories on other creators. So we don't script anything. We're just going to let you go off of it. And then as things come up, we'll talk more about it. But introduce yourself, tell our listeners and stuff what you do, what you're passionate about, what got you into wanting to do so much community work. And yeah, that's how we do it here.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me. I know you and I ran into each other at an event a long time ago, right? You had a booth and you were promoting your fishing show.
Yeah,
so
it's been
a
while.
That was really cool.
Then we ran into each other recently at the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing your morning cardio, and then they're like, hey, it's you. Good morning. Hey, you see people on social that you know, and then you actually get to see them in person. And remember, we stopped and we're chopping it up. You're doing getting your vitamin C in the morning. We talked about the importance of the walk on the beaches and that clarity stuff. So
yeah, I love it here. So the event that we have going on with Carlos, as you mentioned, is very much a community event. We're all about helping children and community and about mental health. So there is a parade coming up on March 15th in Ventura, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And Bikes for Cause is going to have they have a spot in the parade, and they're going to be highlighting some of the new bicycle laws because according to Oxnard PD, Oxnard is the number 6 in bicycle deaths, and we're trying to bring that number down. So it's very much about bike safety. I think bicycles are a great way for children. It's an affordable activity. So that is something that we are highlighting as far as the bicycle community.
Is it safety? Like, just a question. Is it for vehicles to be on the lookout for biker safety, or like some of these groups that ride bikes together that are in the street? I remember we had a kid that was in Huanimi that was riding, and there's a little memorial there by the corner of Ventura Road and Huanimi Road where they were riding as a group, and somebody ran him over, and there's a memorial there. Is it for the bike riders themselves safety, but also how people that are driving vehicles look out for bikers?
That's actually what we talked about having it to target both of them. So Carlos does have a campaign that's not just educating the bicycle community, but educating the drivers, because that incident, that horrible situation that you're talking about, it was road rage. It was not because it was an accident. It was this car deliberately ran over these kids. They were teenagers. So that was very much road rage. And there are bicycle rules that we have to follow. And that's actually what we were working with as far as making sure that the bike community follows those rules, right? Like when you're turning, when you're in traffic, and all of those things, especially because I know with gas prices, a lot of people are picking up more of these hobbies, right? Like the skating, the bicycles, even fishing, something.
Plus, I think people are just trying to look at their own health. I think like when me and you were walking on the beach, as far as just getting a little therapy or getting some self-care or different terms that we use now, the different buzzwords, but people are just like getting back out and getting active. The gyms are a little bit more busy. People getting out and bike riding, hiking. When we go down there, I just feel like there's a push right now for people taking care of themselves, and outdoor activity is it. You know, when the pandemic hit, I had to buy a bike from, I was trying to buy one. You couldn't find one. And somebody donated one to me from the Boys and Girls Club, and I still have it. And it kind of restarted. Even our fishing industry, we were up like 800% because that's all you could do. It was like you had to take away going to the club, take away going to the amusement park or a ball game. And people found how much pleasure it makes you slow down in life, right? I'm so busy, I can't go on a bike ride with my kids. I live in Wainimi like you do. Or when you live in Wainimi, or you just live there, right?
No,
So again, as a nerd, as me being a city kid and looking at the traffic that comes into our neighborhood, how many people are utilizing the beach for riding their bicycles, and a dad with his 3 little girls out riding? So I just think too, with that, what you're saying, bringing that awareness is because I think the generation right now is just, it's not go to work, pay your bills, go home, go to work. It's like, hey, we need to spend some time getting outside and smelling nature. Nothing like a cool bike ride, you know?
And it is addicting, and you're absolutely right. When I would go to the beach during the pandemic, it was so crowded. And I think that day that I ran into you, it wasn't as busy as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just walking, doing my cardio, because I walk 5 miles every day now. And it's addicting to be like, I have the same walk and the same everything, and I love it every time I go. Like, I love it. And the bicycle community, we've seen that a lot of kids, as you said, people are too busy, but with this pandemic, it forced us to slow down. And now you saw people are taking time that they like to do, right? Fishing and bicycling. And we have such a great community to do that. Like, we live in a resort because it is affordable. And I think, especially with the program that you do, right? Just the kids just have to show up, and that's affordable in our community. And where do you have stuff like that? And I think, like with this bicycle, working on,
I turned my mic over, sorry, got it upside down. Keep going.
Working with the community and working with the kids, and showing them you don't have to spend a lot of money.
Keep going. We're getting
you don't have to spend a lot of money to kind of do these just do these events, to enjoy the things that we have here at Wainimi, to enjoy the pier, to enjoy the bike trails. I mean,
and it's a family engagement part too, right? It's something you could do that's affordable, but everybody could do it. So I used to ride my bike. I used to work at a gym, and we'll get to some more topics. We want to talk about bikes, since I know we talked about that before. But the point of it is that I would leave my job to come ride my bike with my son every Wednesday. That was our day we would get together and ride bikes. And those are memories that we catch, like our fishing, that you can do that's affordable. Look what you're looking at, right? You're driving like in the Channel Islands, watching the sunset. You could go up in these mountains over here and bike ride up in like these different trails from Ventura to Newberry Park, down off the PCH. We do live in a resort in paradise. That's what people say. Another day in paradise. Like, you never leave Mr. Wainimi. I'm like, have you been there? Why do you want to take off?
Even from the sidewalks where we're at, you could see the Channel Islands. It's so beautiful. I love going in the morning, and I love going when the sun is setting. It's so beautiful. So it is. It's like, that's why I think our community is so giving and so happy. Yeah. I mean, even despite
what it's called? It's called vitamin C, SEA. Something about vitamin C. You know, because I do some work with some government agencies and different in education, and you know, we talk about these you know, inclusion and stuff, and it's like sometimes the way that they try to divide the pie into how we utilize the ocean. I ask them, do you think it's because it's like a Baywatch moment? You got to be laid out with some suntan lotion, you know, or if you're fishing, you have to be at some exotic location, or can it be just enjoying a walk on the beach, or cruising your vehicle on the Sunday and hanging out and listening to music, or barbecuing? And how we define using the coastal area when they start making statistics out to be like, oh, we don't use it because we're economically crippled, and that's why we don't go to the beach. It's like, man, that's a bogus, lame take. And so that's why I think I do also pay attention to it. So when I go back to these other round tables and discussion groups, and they're trying to represent, you have a representative representing us that ain't us, and I'm able to bring to highlight like how many people really get to enjoy these things, again, from bike riding to walking to swimming to just hanging out on the pier that where we live at. So that way they're not trying to be a culture vulture and utilize that for grant funding to chase an inclusion opportunity, but really doing a disservice to the culture that they're trying to
tap into.
Right. So what else you got going on? Enough of the political stuff on my side, but like, what else do you got on your magazine? And we were talking about, we have a writer. So tell us like all your entities that you have going on. And what made you want to we talked about stories. What got you so fired up to want to be, to do journalism and arts? Are you an artsy person? Is like, what got you into wanting to take this route?
I'm very much into the arts, anything to do with the creative world. But when I was in college, I had to take for the marketing that I was doing, I had to take a journalism class. And that's my first introduction even though I was a writer, that was my first introduction to different types of journalism. And that's really where I started to thrive, exploring and telling my stories and interviewing people, because I had to do that for college. And then I went to Oxnard College as well, and I took another class there, and it was just such an eye-opener when it comes to photojournalism. We talked about earlier about documentaries and all of those things, but when I was in school, that was my introduction. And I guess because I'm very familiar with the opinion pieces versus journalism, that it was easy for me to see the difference when people are just giving opinions to be loud and not to be factual. Mm-hmm. So
and then you got in, like, when you started, was it more like the music scene is where you got into? Or?
I started writing about the community, and
I'm looking you up on the gram right now if you're looking, so I could tag you in this video I'm about to shoot for us.
Okay, so when I started writing, it was actually about immigration reform and rights as Americans and birthright citizenship, and that was way back on MySpace days. So this was about like in 2004, 2005, maybe 2006, and the LA Times picked up one of my writings, and they quoted me in their article as well. And then because of that article, other publications picked up on it, and I was interviewed on the radio. I was interviewed on other publications through the LA Times. And that piece that the LA Times quoted me on actually was quoted in a book by Arthur Rich Benjamin, who's an anthropologist. So my writing had nothing to do with music. It was very much about the community.
Awesome. I guess I just thought music because I know that some of the arts that you do and what you work on and what I've seen you do was kind of like in that realm, where you're going. But, we have a passion, when you do, because what we do is journalism. What I like to do, like, I'm a writer. I wrote 6 children's books. I've always liked writing. I just had a glitch as far as like I took the writing proficiency test in 5th and 7th grade and I failed. So I thought I liked writing, but to my punctuation and all that, like, so now I have somebody that I bullet pointed out and I write summaries, and then I have somebody help proofread it to shrink it to get all my, because I feel like I'm some type of a radical. I tell my grant writer that I'm a radical on the way that the stuff that I do, and instead of going long-winded, like you said, or I get excited and to get my passionate apart, whether it's for our people or the things that we're doing, I'm the same way. But but academically, I stumbled as, like, again, turning in a paper that needed to be graded and checked, so it put like a damper on it. So when I got into filmmaking, I'm really good at hosting, so I could ask these questions and talk about what you're doing, and articulate it with my the way I talk, right, and my energy. But it's still, I love it as a way of telling these stories and journalism, except for a lot more of mine I do behind, with the camera versus written, just because of the fact. But again, it starts with that passion, like you get hooked.
Yeah, and there are different types of storytelling, and we have all seen. I think we were talking about this earlier. When it comes to storytelling, there's photojournalism, there's documentaries, and there's writing, and all of it plays an important role in our community. Every single piece that you're telling. I do meet a lot of people that have a lot of great ideas, such as you. And you mentioned one thing that a lot of people talk about, that academically they were not maybe the top student, but they know the message that they're trying to tell. So I do get hired out a lot to do like the research, the fact checking, and I give it to them in a nice package, and they use that to do their projects. So I do get that's a lot of my freelance work, is the research part.
Where do they find your work at? Let's throw that out. Like, give yourself a plug so that way they know,
Well,
Yeah.
it's mostly just through referrals, because I don't chase follows. Okay, I don't chase follows, but people that I know, the people that need to know what I do, they know what I do, and they're the ones recommended me. Like, hey, I have this documentary coming up, and we need this information, and I get hired out, and I do the same thing. I got an opportunity to interview house music icon Crystal Waters, right? But at that time, I had so many things on my plate because I was overseeing the whole entire magazine, right? The advertising, the other interviews, the graphic design, the photographers.
It's like a solopreneur. So you got that overlook. Ooh, I know what that's like.
Well, I had a partner for this project, but then I knew that this interview was so important. So I went and found a journalist, an award-winning journalist, Susie Exposito, who's written for LA Times, Rolling Stone, Pitchfork, Elle, Vogue, all these magazines. And that's who I hired to do this interview. So even me, that I love to storytell, I also know like I cannot drop the ball on this interview. So I myself also seek out that stuff. And I think when people know what you do, it's kind of like how they tagged me on your post and people tell me about you. The right person that respects your work is going to know what you do.
And we always like to leave some little business tidbits with our people that are listening, So if you hear that, even though when I use the word solopreneur, you have to know, if you're listening, that you're going to not say you burn yourself out, but you could overwhelm yourself if you do try to do every single thing. So like she said, she was able to network and collaborate with somebody else to help write this journal. So again, if you're or this journalism, so if you are entrepreneur or solopreneur or what you're doing, the importance of reaching out to get yourself a little help and support versus doing it all yourself. Invest a couple of your dollars or whatever it takes to kind of to delegate some of that responsibility so that it doesn't get watered down or suffer because you're trying to complete so many. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to spin a lot of the plates, and some plates didn't get spun as well because it wasn't such a priority. But when you are growing and people are depending on you, those are great. That's just a little something to take away from an executive standpoint, that collaborating, out servicing some of the work to get it done is brilliant. Okay. So you guys that are listening, we don't have to do everything on our own, especially the more busy you get, that you'll find yourself just overwhelmed with a lot. So, and it's always good to collaborate and outsource, because now that person that she worked with might refer her later, and that's how we do business, right?
Yeah, and it's so true. You cannot do everything, but knowing when to delegate is a skill. You have to know when to delegate. I did a lot of the graphic design because this magazine was based off of the 90s. And I don't know if some of you remember Glamour Shots. So I had to make it look like the 90s magazine that we had back in the day. Yeah. So I knew where my strength was at, and I knew that I could interview people. And when
I'm holding this up, okay, while you talk, so
I knew what I could do, but I also needed a story to be told when it came to Crystal Waters, because this journalist, she went into the history, some of the struggles, how she's an icon in this industry and in different marginalized communities, and the inspiration behind her hit single of the Gypsy Woman, of the homeless woman song, right? So she covered so much in this article that I knew I had to focus on my skill set, and I knew I had to. When I pitched her the concept and she's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna go over, I read the article and I was like, wow, this was like, I need that story to be told, and that's where we hit it. So it's very important to know, even if you can do it, if there's someone better, it's not a competition. And there's a lot of people who I think we talked about it, who feel like your hardships and struggles are competition, and they shouldn't be.
Well, you know why I said that when we're talking off camera is because when we come from a certain place, and it's, I heard one of my speakers that I listen to a lot, the hip hop preacher, when you have a mindset of middle class mindset, scarcity has a play. I do a lot in the subconscious mind, right? And we're afraid, we don't believe in things of abundance. We think of things in terms of scarcity.
Yeah.
So we're all competing for that one nickel. I used to be that same way with nonprofit. And one of the ladies that, her thing is, we interviewed her, Samantha, with Reigns of Hope with the horses.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And she was like, Kevin, I was training her at the gym. This is when you cross pollinate, right? So she's like, Kev, can you just give me like some workouts and I can, and so we met for coffee. I wrote her up a little workout plan. And then I started telling her about, nonprofit, because she's been doing it a lot longer. And I'm just getting frustrated because, we're trying to collect funding. And maybe I try to sandbag on a grant that's out there. So that way, nobody else will go for it. So that way I could get it, And it was like, and when I heard that, and I heard a couple other people speak on it, it's just sometimes when we feel that way, it's because of we grew up in some type of scarcity, man. We don't have the mindset of abundance. We have a mindset of that, and that's why we try to again tell people, okay, well, this is what happened, but there's so much more out here for us to get involved with without us thinking that because I think it ripples into other ways that we might maneuver, and yeah.
And you bring up really great points, because in every project that I've done, I didn't think of that mentality, because I was introduced to the music industry, 20 years ago. And the people that were doing stuff 20 years ago are doing big things today. And when they saw my struggle, they're the ones that helped me out the most. They're like, use my connections, use my brand to help yourself out. What do you need? Who can I connect you with? And that came from me supporting them when they were starting, and they were performing at little rinky dinky bars and nightclubs, and people remember that. And
as an artist, that's where you got to start.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, we had to do quinceañeras and people's in any
Yeah.
art, whether you're a hip hop art, cooking, you might got to start off catering something small, but when you're doing art and you want to make it, this is where we got to pay our dues. You can't just walk out with a degree and be like, oh, I want to put me in this nice position. No, you got to get yourself positioned. And that's why I say collaborating and on it, but you got to know that that's part of the beginning part of, and when you're getting into art.
Yeah, because that's when you also polish your skill set, right? Doing the quinceañeras and the weddings, that's when you learn certain things to do with the camera and sound and
Audio,
editing.
yeah.
You learn so much. And
you know what you learn? Sorry, let me jump in.
go ahead.
Is value, how much you ask. Sure, you could have 7 revises for $200. Make sure again you say, okay, let's charge appropriately. But again, that goes back to that mindset of scarcity. Oh, $250. I'm asking for a lot. Or if you're an artist singing at an event, oh my God, okay, you're gonna give me like a couple dollars out of the door. Dang, am I asking too much? Versus being like, hey, this is what it's going to cost for art. So something that you believe in, ask for what you're worth. But I just wanted to jump in on that, so that way you're not doing all that extra work learning for like $100.
Yeah, I started my first newsletter when I was in 2nd grade in school.
Really?
It was a printer. I had to go to the printer. Copies were like a nickel back then, and I would make copies and sketch it out, and then type on my typewriter and cut everything out. It looked like it was called the Wainimi Times, and it
you have any copies of that?
No, but it was very much
like to put one of those in here. That would be dope. If you come over, I want one for my wall. Okay.
My dad got me a typewriter, and he would take me to the store to make copies, and I would talk about what happened in school and class. So everybody.
What school was that?
Wayne Elementary.
Whoa, what's up? Thunderbolts. We might have been kicking it back then too. What? Who was your teacher?
At that point, Miss France.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember.
I had Miss Cody in 2nd grade. She's OG.
Didn't have
yeah.
That. But it's,
Thunderbolts, baby.
It was, that's where you polish your skill set, and you don't have to have a lot of followers. Look, when I started switching my page from being a stay-at-home mom and all of that, going back into marketing, I had 400 followers, and I never sought out following. Never. You still have to talk to your audience, right? Now I'm at 1,500, and to me, that is amazing that I switched it like that. That I still have an audience, right? But you can't forget the people that you're talking to. If I have 1,500 people, or even the 400, or even 30 people, and it was 30 people following me, that is the audience. If I invited 30 people to my house, that is 30 people. You can't ignore. Never be so vain that you're seeking followers, because you already have an audience, regardless if that audience is 30 people, 100. When I did it, I had 400 people, and those were friends that knew what I was going through, and the ones that helped me out. So I think it's so important that, I've been able to launch a magazine, have Crystal Waters on the cover. This was distributed at an event where she was performing, and we had Melo Mayonnaise, Lina Santiago. We have a lot of people, and I didn't have a lot of followers. I did partner up with
you know what you had though? You had vision, you had repetitions, you had some believers in you. Like, you had enough of a recipe, right? You had enough to in your bank of confidence to go. And I think that's I think, okay, we call this thing the double dutch. You ever play double dutch?
Yeah.
And you're waiting outside and they're doing the thing, and there's people that are just waiting right, and they keep stopping on their tippy toe.
You just have to go in.
You just gotta get in between the two ropes, and that's what you did,
And I do want to give a shout out to Antonio Pelayo, because he's the artist. Him and his son are artists. Because when I met him, he wasn't doing all the big things that he was doing now, that he has all these events. He has a lot of events, a lot of sponsors, a lot of things that he does. And he does his art, and he works for Disney. And he was one of the first ones to say, hey, use my brand to build yourself back up. And I think it's really important to, I didn't have a following, but he very much helped me.
Do you think, I think for the way that I reach out and help people is because we understand, especially like artistically, that those resources are important, and the people that did allow me to use some of their resources and help building what I did, I feel like it's an obligation to spread my resources now. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember how important that feeling was for somebody to say, hey, yeah, you could use this, Mike Ever, you could, So now, as platform is growing and what I'm doing, to watch that next, those next entrepreneurs or visionaries and stuff, dreamers, coming up, like I'm in a hurry to help support,
That is very valuable, not only what you receive, but what you're offering. And that is even more important.
The more you give, the more you get.
And it's true. Even Prince used to say that he would give a lot of his music, because those are the people that would go to his concerts, right? A lot of the things that helped me, because during my struggle, I ran into you a few years ago, but I wasn't doing any of this yet. During my struggle, when I got a divorce, I ended up homeless. I ended up broker than broke. And what helped me out wasn't money. It was opportunities that people were saying, like, here's my platform, here's my skill, here is this, and here is that. And through that, I was able to make some money and pay the writers and pay who I needed to pay. And,
hey, they say sometimes, and I've been there.
Yeah.
Sometimes the bottom will make you, that's what we're talking about off the air, as far as like, maybe not who has, see how you don't use that as, oh, I'm here, I'm victimized. You use that as a way to be like you pull back the arrow and that shot you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you can't strive for perfection. You just have to keep going, because looking for perfection is gonna stop you from doing it. You just sometimes have to do it. And
don't say sometimes. Do me a favor, take the word sometimes out of that. You just got to do it.
You just got to do it, because as many mistakes that happened in this magazine, and there were a lot of relationships that were like hurting and stuff like that happened when the launch. This magazine led to the launch of another project that a record label saw this.
Talk to them, let them know.
This magazine helped me work with my next magazine that we're launching through a record label, because they saw this one. So
can you say it on there? Is it?
Not yet, because
all right, we have to call her back.
But what I'm saying is, there were so many imperfections that happened with deadlines and stuff like that happened with this magazine. Interviews that we weren't able to print because there was not enough.
But like your readers, and I go through this as filmmaker, and I got to talk to my team. No, we're so hard on ourselves when we're being artists, right? We say perfection.
Yeah.
Our readers and our people don't know that behind it, right?
Exactly. Nobody knew the struggles, how I cried, and what happened with this magazine. Nobody knew that.
But the point of that, sometimes we could be harder on ourselves. And with the film guy, like, what happens if we don't get? That's like because we visualize it through this lens, we can be overcritical or crucial on the product that you never even know when our episode is done, right? You can't even tell that we did that because we fixed this and we're able to move that around and put this to create it. And but as the creator of it and the inventor in the back, and I use that term a lot because like an inventor, right? Back to the drawing board, Watson, element, eureka moments, right? Where you finally get that eureka moment, but nobody sees like all the boards that have all the different how many times you had to go over. But that's what makes us that's why this art, and when you're going after the ideas that you love to do, that that's kind of, my daughter said, you got to burn the first pancake, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know that
I'm really good at that.
before you got the ones with blueberries and cream and all the good stuff on it, right? It was too runny, it was too hot, you know? But then you had that ta-da moment.
No, yeah, nobody starts off being an expert. Nobody. You have
I don't even think you finish as an expert.
Yeah, you have to be willing to put in the time, and you have to be willing to learn from your mistakes, and you have to be willing. You have to be willing to be a learner and to be resourceful. I don't know everything, but I am very resourceful, and I know where to get that answer.
But another thing I think that you have, and people that are listening, is those things that you're going through, those struggles, like you still keep an upbeat attitude, I think, from what I see, right? And even if people portray it like, I'm not saying it's not all roses, but if you, one time I was dating this girl, I was telling a guy this at the gym previously, like years ago, I had when I was dating somebody, they told me I live in a land of make-believe. Nobody thinks like you do. You live in a land of make-believe, but it's I get that a lot. But at least my day, 80% of my days are better. I'm not saying I have it all, but at least if I brainwash myself into believing, like with your attitude, your consistency, by helping others previously, your turn's gonna come.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about that, I get that a lot because I went through a divorce. I was married for 13 years. I lost everything. There is so much drama that happened to my life, and and people ask me how do you keep it? How do you stay so happy? And I don't. Like, I allow myself to grieve. I allowed myself to be sad and mad about that, but I don't stay there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to cry it out for 30 minutes and dance it off and listen to music, but then I have to keep going. It's okay to feel sadness.
This is something I'm working on right now.
But don't stay in that dark spot, because, man, let me tell you, it was really hard for me, but I kept going. And 2 years later, I get along great with my ex-husband because I had to forgive him, not because we're getting together or anything, we're not, but so I could move on and not be so angry. And the beach was my therapy, but it's okay to be sad and mad and let it go, but don't hold on to that. Like, I would take myself out to like eat just dessert and go to somewhere and just by myself and eat dessert and take time for me and be sad, but I'm going to have dessert while I'm being sad. It's okay.
Yeah, it's hard to frown and eat ice cream.
Yeah, it's okay to you're going to go through things. Just don't stay there mentally. Don't stay there mentally. I went to the beach a lot when I was broke and I had to live out of my car a few times. I would come to the beach and walk around, and
it's something like, that it's a place of that's why I call it the term vitamin C, man. Hear my story and the way I grew up in second grade, and I would just sit on that pier and fish, get a piece of fishing string out of the trash can and drop it down, make a little drop line, and I could just sit on that pier. That's my story, because at home what was going on. But yeah, I could just sit there, and sometimes as a reflection moment, we have to I do anyway, is self-reflect, to be like, why is this hitting me so hard, or why, and be like, oh, okay, it's connected over there to that, so that I can release it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus being defensive or angry, or myself. When you said that, sometimes I'm just be like, that's just a punk sissy move, and I can't allow myself to even have those type of feelings or emotions. That's just being real, and knowing to be like, yeah, Kev, it's all right if you it doesn't make you any weaker or any softer. No. If you have a feeling or emotion. I just try not to have again, because I have an emotion and emotion about my business, my children. So there's certain things that I do allow that to happen. And then there's other parts that I've turned those things off, just because of the fact that, I've used it as a punk or a sucker type of mentality when I was younger, versus being, man, these are just human emotions, Kev. You got to stop acting like you ain't human, sometimes, but not to stay there. You know what I mean? Because before the other side of it, sorry to jump in, I wouldn't even deal with it, because then I don't even risk staying there. Just avoid it at all costs and toughen up and get through it. So, but I'm learning even at 45, man, that might not be so healthy.
Yeah, and it's as long as we don't stay there. You mentioned something off air that I really like, that it's like you could use that as a jumping board, because every day we wake up, whatever we do when we wake up is gonna like, we have an opportunity to change our journey that day when we wake up.
That's why first thing, this is just everybody has their own, I have a devotion that I read in the morning, because being a manager right now and going through having a business, there are things that are frustrating. If I don't remember to love and serve first is what my job really is. So that's what I do in the morning, man. And that's the choice that I take, and I drive by the beach and I talk to the Lord, but I have to have this self-inventory with myself, because of all the pressures that come with entrepreneurship and responsibilities that I do have, that if I don't center myself, You know, I don't want to be a grump ass at work. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you're the one that wanted to be start a nonprofit. They said it'd be fun. Go into business for yourself. It'd be fun, right? So it's like, okay, well, if I'm dealing with these things that I wanted to do, I got to make sure that I don't let certain things irritate me to the point, you know. So like you said, that's how I start my day in the morning versus social media or other stuff because
Yeah.
it's just a way that I have to recognize, you know, recognize, know thyself, you know.
It's true. I actually don't have any social media notifications on my phone because I check it at very specific times throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up and I'm very thankful that I got to wake up and open my eyes. And that's when I go for my 5 mile walk. And that's where I run into you, right? Like, I start my day off with this beautiful scenery of the beach. And I know not everybody has access to the beach, but it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, wherever you're at, like, let me hold that. Wherever you're at, though, find your beautiful spot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And wherever it could be, whatever's in your scope or somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, just, you know, this is where we live at, you know, but you might live in Montana listening, and it might be just a stroll through the woods or something, but just that time. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
no, you're right. It has to be something that you enjoy. I enjoy the beach because I grew up, 5 minutes away from the beach. I didn't know I was poor until high school because I grew up.
I don't mean to laugh. Just wait.
I grew up near, like, walking distance from the Port Hueneme Beach. I grew up down the street, and we would just go. Back then, the parents wouldn't take us to the beach. We would just go. Like, it was just part of our youth at that time. We had no phones. We had bicycles, skates, and the beach and the park. So to me, it's my happy spot. But I do wake up every morning. I go for my 5 mile walk. That's when I listen to the music that the artists send me. I always get sent new songs. I listen to the music. I prepare my day mentally. And when I have struggles and stress and all of those, I allow myself to sit down and focus on that. When I'm feeling anger, I don't even, my ex-husband will tell you, like, I should be more angry, but I'm very calm and collective with him because it can't get
because
worse.
You know why though? But I think with that part, I've been divorced coming out, is that I believe, again, we talk about this kind of in the church setting, is that there is like a chain, like bondage, and that person still has, or that situation could still have power and control over you that's not even in your presence. And if we don't release that, then yeah, why be mad? Like, what does that do? Like that's just that somebody that has more control over you, that's not even around you, and they still got a grip on you.
That is actually why I forgave my ex-husband. I very much let it go because I wasn't gonna allow him to ruin my day and my vibe and all of those things. I didn't allow it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even through everything that I went through, losing
I
all my money, and I was like, okay, that is my past. I get told a lot, how are you gonna throw away a 13-year marriage? Okay, I don't. That's something that happened in my life, and not everything was bad, and it was good.
It's not all thrown away. We had this talk at church the other day. We were talking about our divorce, and it's like sometimes, things ain't compatible. Like if you're miserable, and it just ain't together, you can't live like that forever on life, man. So
And I have nothing bad to say about the time we were married. It was good while it happened, and now this is the next part of my life. Like I cannot regret that part of my life. I have a daughter, and I'm good.
But it also, again, that part is what shot you into doing what you love to do, right?
Yeah.
Some of these situations and areas, you could lose your identity. You could forget what it is that you love to do.
Yeah.
And now, so again, through that turmoil, through those storms, I use this analogy a lot. You need the storms for the growth. There could be a fire in Newberry Park. I remember this, right? I took pictures. I'm Mr. Analogy guy. And there was one in Ojai, right? And then it like went from Newberry Park to PCH, charred the whole mountain. Then you go hiking a couple months later, and it's so green and bright. And and we had a storm that made it all grow. And you're like, you can never recognize that this place was just scorned. It is so magnificent and beautiful, right? But sometimes sometimes we need the storm sometimes to really put what it is we want to do into place. Don't be stuck there. And again, I'm not here to promote separation and all that. All I'm saying is, looking at a circumstance, two individuals, or it could be a job or a situation where it's like draining and eating away at who you really want to be. You got to go through, like you say, a couple of days of sorrow in that, but it could be preventing you from really stepping into your greatness.
Yeah, and someone in this music industry is the one that gave me great advice about that, about not regretting it. He said, don't regret it because during that time you were able to raise your daughter. And I was like, you know what? That was a great thing. I raised my daughter. We have a great relationship. We tell her all the time we're still family, and now we're both doing our thing. And my ex-husband, even on Valentine's Day, he sent me over tacos. He lives out of state, right? So we have a great friendship now that our daughter sees, and it is so important for her to see that. And it's allowing me now. I'm raising her now. I'm doing my stuff. He's doing his, and it doesn't, like,
it's healthy.
Yeah, but in order for me to get to that point, I could not stay in the anger and the sadness of what I lost. I couldn't stay there. I had to grieve like you lose when you lose a loved one. I grieved the loss of my marriage, and you let it go.
Grief. So what else you got coming up? Anything exciting? We got about 6 minutes left. This is a great interview, man. So much passion and excitement. And what else you want to, we got 5 minutes. You got the magazine. We can't talk about anything you have.
Not yet.
If somebody's looking for that, if they want to read it, where can they find it?
Well, we distribute these at select events, and we do sell them online, or we were selling them online. But right now it's currently like we distribute it at select events because our readers are very specific. Like it's not like we just pass them out to when we're passing out things. They still have to come and it's very target marketed, I guess, right? So like,
what's the target? Is it music? What is
this one was a very 90s magazine. The next one is going to be once we have the official cover, we'll be able to kind of talk about that one and the events that you're going to be able to get it at and how to buy it.
Well, that's cool, because for that reason, what you're talking about, I think that's a passionate part, right? Like the stuff that I share and some of the artists and things we do, like you have your own collectors, it's not so much commercial. It's more, it's not trendy or commercial. It's more like, the ideology of the people that are invested into it is your own type, right?
Like target market,
like Rolex and these other brands that have their target market. They have their specific way that they market their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like you see it at Wimbledon or tennis, like they put it in front of certain people. They're not all over the place.
There is a point to that. Somebody says you never see an advertisement for like a Rolls Royce, and it's not true. You never see it, but a lot of these brands, because I worked in advertising and marketing, they target to a very specific market, to it's called high society.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, when it goes back,
see it, you don't.
That's what I mean by what we get when we say, how many of us are looking at like Forbes, right?
Right, Forbes, Barron's,
right.
Yeah.
But that's where you would see that Rolex or that thing, because of that target audience of those folk. Yeah. That's where they're doing it.
The private airplanes, all of those things. And it's so true, because that's what they're reading. They're not going to put a Rolls Royce or a Rolex in, that's not going to be our market, right? Even if they have the money for that, this market was for music lovers who like going to music festivals, and that's where we distribute these at. But like Forbes, like I worked a lot with different brands when I worked in advertising. I used to work for the VC Reporter, and we launched at that time Ventana. Ventana was the one that went for like 6 figures.
Just in case you didn't know.
So this,
look at your boy on Ventana.
So I was there when this magazine started. When I learned how to do that magazine.
Sorry, I don't mean to get in your space.
No, but when I was there when this launched, because we were picking names and marketing and everything, and learning when this launches, how I learned to launch a magazine. And I left soon after to start my first magazine, the Club Exchange. So this magazine, I worked for this company. It's so great to see you on it. But this is when I learned about the full color glossy, because they also publish VC Reporter.
Yeah. So what happened was again, let's just wrap this up into networking. Go ahead, hold that like that. Is that here? I'll hold yours, you hold mine. All right. Wow, what's up?
Look at the grandma and the baby.
Yeah. Ain't that cool? You want that magazine? You want to take it?
Okay.
I could autograph it. Yeah, give it to you.
Sign it for me. Yeah. But this is where I started my advertising career.
And it was right there waiting for you. See that?
Look at
I pushed it back so you didn't see all the.
And now you're on it. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? This is what helped me learn about.
I got goosebumps right now. Anybody else in here get goosebumps?
Magazine, and that's what led to my first magazine 20 years ago with actress Cherry Johnson on the cover from Punky Brewster and Family Matters. She's the one that encouraged me to go for it. She's like, and she came for an interview in Oxnard, and we did the interview. But this was the magazine where I can't believe you have it. This was not planned. I didn't even know that. Yeah. But this is what. Seeing this is what started my career.
I'll send that one for you, okay?
Oh, that'd be great. I love it.
So they sent somebody out from the VC Reporter to interview me for our fishing program. And then another lady that was in charge of it, she's like, no, I want him on the cover of the Ventana. So they sent him out here to take the pictures. They still use the same article from the journalist from Alex Stone or Alex Wilson. You know Alex Wilson?
No.
He does reporting for the Reporter and used to do KVTA. Anyway, so they sent out another guy named, that's me right there, Community Kev. They sent him out to do the cover shot for me here. His name is Victor. And yeah, you never know, one thing leads to another, man.
That is so amazing. Where's your article?
Keep going. No, I think we're more in the back. Yeah, put the brothers in the back.
But isn't that crazy? This is what I mean, right? Like every part of your life plays a role. And this, I did not know that you were like, this played a big role in my 20s that made me see how to launch a magazine and how to do the branding and the media kits. And I left soon after to launch my first magazine, The Club Exchange. And now look, this is actually like my 4th magazine. And now I'm launching another one through a record label. So every part of your journey, even the struggles, are going to take you to where you're going, but you cannot give up when you struggle the worst. Like,
right.
You can't give up.
It's like lifting weights, man. I got to hit 250 pounds. I can't give up. I got to get you a spotter and push it. You know what I mean?
Keep going. Oh my, this is so amazing. I love it.
Okay. So I'll autograph that for you off the air. So, hey, look, we're already at 45 minutes. I went by quick, but that's about as long as we go. Thanks for coming by and giving that positive energy that you bring. I'm sure the listeners, again, what we like to do, I gave a little business, like talk to them and give them like a minute or so of some real inspirational moment.
You just have to execute your idea, sit down with it, write it down. There's a business for everything. So whatever it is that you want to launch, whatever it is that you want to do, there's someone already that offers something that could help you in your business, right? I wanted a magazine. I had to look for a printer and the writers and everything. You just have to keep going. I met so many people that had ideas and they execute them. Anybody could have ideas, but you just have to execute it. And once you do that execution part, like it's
your idea too. Your idea. Don't let nobody come in and fracture your idea.
Don't listen to them because they're not doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Like, play the safe role, baby. It's okay.
They're not doing what you're trying to do. So you cannot listen to the negative. You just have to keep going and trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it. Thank you so much, Elidet. I added an H to her name. I was highlighting it the first time. I thought it was Edith, but she had to correct me. So, but you remember I told you I can't read anyway. I told you I flunked a couple of grades. So at least I'm authentic. I ain't out here trying to.
But at least you see, that's a skill he knows that he needs work on. And so he asked me when I came in, how do you pronounce your name? That's what I mean. Like, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be resourceful.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask the question. What I mean? Don't look goofy. Yeah. All right, that's enough. Let's go, Scotty. Take us out here, Barry. We'll see you, man. Take care.
Brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Islands Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.